Hey guys, and welcome to a very spontaneous video today and to a little bit different video, because there is this Battlefield tier list going around on X and also on YouTube. I'm sure you've already seen this, and here you can rank all of the available Battlefield titles in different categories, from it doesn't get any better than this to don't be sad, this is just how it works out sometimes. And I think this is quite funny, so I thought I'm gonna pick it up and do my own version of this, because why not? It's fun, it's interesting, it might be entertaining for you as well. Plus, the video is not scripted, which is something new as well on this channel. And I didn't even take any notes. I want it to be as natural as possible, and let's see how this works out. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse. Let me know in the comments below. One thing before we start, there are two games missing from this list, which is Battlefield Play for Free and Battlefield 2 Modern Combat. But I haven't played them anyhow, so they would end up down there. It didn't play, so it doesn't really matter that they are not on the list. But now let's start with the first one, and that's Battlefield 1. And I don't think there's any doubt at where this game belongs. Of course it belongs up here. Battlefield 1 was an iconic, immersive game. It really nailed the atmosphere and the Battlefield feeling. It was the game that brought me into playing more multiplayer, that really got me into the Battlefield franchise and into the community. It was the game I started this channel with, so it had indeed a massive impact on me and on my life. And yeah, that's where it belongs to, up here. The gunplay was not the best. We had this random bullet spread and this massive suppression effect, but besides this, they nailed basically everything, especially the atmosphere. That was probably the unique selling point of Battlefield 1. So definitely belongs up here. It doesn't get any better. Okay, next up we have Battlefield 2042. Oh well, I'd say when it launched, it was, don't be sad, this is just how it works out sometimes. Because, I mean, let's be honest, that's just what the game was. It was like this. It was a rough ride, definitely, for the teams, for the players, and also for the content creators. It made its way up here. It's not, it doesn't get any better than this, because I think everyone would agree that it does indeed get better than Battlefield 2042, but it made its way from a not very enjoyable game to an enjoyable game. So for me, it belongs here. It's an enjoyable game in the state it is now. It has come a long way, and I think it deserves this spot. Right, then we have Battlefield 5. And I gotta say, I have to apologize already in advance to everyone really enjoying this game, because for me, it belongs here. But this has nothing to do with the game itself, not so much, but more with me and with the state I was back then when the game was released in 2018, and how things turned out for me back then and how my life was, because I was at a really dark place back then. I was struggling with my mental health, I lost my job, my cat died, which was horrible for me because we were like soulmates. And I had just started out as a content creator. I was struggling with this as well. I was struggling to learn. I had a lot of hate heading towards me or throwing towards me. There were a lot of negative comments on my videos, especially comments targeting me as a woman, which was something I was not prepared for. I was prepared to get comments like, you're a noob or whatever, you know, just this casual stuff that you receive as a content creator. That's the stuff you have to live with. But I was not prepared to receive comments like, what are you doing here, woman? Go back to the kitchen, you don't belong here. Does your husband know what you're doing here? He should teach you a lesson, you know, stuff like this, which was targeted to me as a woman. I was not prepared for this. And that's still this whole package, you know, that's still what I connect to Battlefield 5. And to this day, I do not find joy in playing this game. So that's why it belongs down there for me. Again, I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of people really enjoying this game, and it's not a bad game at all, but for me, it's just not enjoyable at all. Alright, next up we have another World War II game in the Battlefield franchise. That's Battlefield 1943. And I gotta be honest, I enjoy this one a lot more, and I'd say it belongs here. It is enjoyable. It is very simple, it's very casual, it has simple mechanics, but still it feels like a Battlefield. You have all the team play, you have this combined arms, you have vehicle combat, gameplay, you have the infantry combat and gameplay. It's not an extensive game, it doesn't have a lot of maps, it doesn't have a lot of content. You just get in, you do your job, you play a Battlefield game and you enjoy it. I think that's at the core of it. That's what a Battlefield game should be. So next up there is Battlefield Bad Company 2, and honestly I don't think there is any doubt as well as to where this belongs, because it definitely belongs up here. It is one of the best games in the franchise. There's absolutely no doubt about it, at least for me. I haven't played it back then when it was released, gotta be honest, but I played it a lot afterwards, and I think Battlefield Bad Company 2 got a lot of things right. At its core, it was a very good Battlefield game. It had a good gunplay, it had a good atmosphere. The atmosphere was not as good as Battlefield 1's, but it was good. Gunplay was not as good as of another title that is coming later, but it was good, so it definitely belongs up here. And we had this wonderful Vietnam DLC, which was excellent, and I hope there's more of this coming in the future, to be honest. Then right after this we have Bad Company 1, of which I think it was enjoyable. I would rate it as enjoyable, but not because of the multiplayer, because I think the multiplayer was okay, but the single player campaign, this was definitely something else. It had this sense of humor, it had this chaotic squad, you know. It was just really good, and it was something that I also would like to see coming back to the franchise. Then there is Battlefield Hardline, and I know that a lot of people think that this game belongs somewhere down here. Probably at the best okay, more likely at don't be sad, this is just how it works out sometimes. But I honestly think that it's more than okay. I think it is enjoyable. It is different, very different from the other Battlefield games. It is more close quarters, it is a bit faster, it reminds me a bit more of a Call of Duty game. But it's not a bad game. Overall, I mean, I didn't play it much. I played it for like, I think 10 hours, but I did enjoy it. So maybe somewhere between enjoyable and okay, but at the end, as a whole package, I would rate it as enjoyable. Then there is Battlefield Vietnam, and I did indeed play this. Didn't play it back then when it was released, of course, but I played it afterwards, and I would rate it as, that's a hard one. I didn't play it much, but I played it more than probably the other old titles, maybe something around 15 to 20 hours, which is still not much for a multiplayer game. But I found it enjoyable. I would rate it as enjoyable as well, but mostly because of the setting. I really like this Vietnam setting, and I would love to see this return to the franchise, maybe somewhere in the future. I don't think we will get this with the next title already, but maybe somewhere in the far future. But the original Battlefield Vietnam, it did a lot of things right. It was really good at its core. There's also still a pretty active community of around, like, I'd say 200 people that keep this game alive, so you can still play it today. And they also do a lot of events, they try to keep the servers up and running, and I think you really have to appreciate it. So this game belongs here. Then we have Battlefield 1942, the first title of the franchise. I haven't played it much, probably same like Battlefield Vietnam for like 15 to 20 hours, but I would rate it as okay. Might be a bit of a surprise, especially since I rated Vietnam a bit higher, but I think Battlefield 1942, there is the core of Battlefield already existing, but it still lacks a lot of things that these games have. It's a solid game, so I think okay justifies this one here. Then there's Battlefield 2, and there is no doubt about it that this game belongs a bit higher than 1942. Actually, somewhere between it doesn't get better than this and enjoyable. I didn't play it much as well, maybe around like 20 hours, but mostly because I haven't had the time to play all of these games to the same extent that I played Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 2042. But from what I've seen, this game is really good, and it's still active today, so I can only recommend to get the game somewhere on eBay or whatever and play it. It's still running, you can find servers, it's still very enjoyable, and it's still a wonderful modern combat game. Definitely belongs into enjoyable, and I know we have a lot of games here, but there's more to come. And there's the first one already that I do not rate as enjoyable, but only as okay. I know a lot of people do not agree with me on this. I did not enjoy the single player as much as I did enjoy the Bad Company ones, and the multiplayer, I found that it was okay, but in comparison to the next title, it was not as good for me, for my feeling. It was not as good as Battlefield 4. Maybe because I was not so active back then when it was released, so I don't have the same feeling as all of the people who played it back at launch already, but for me, it belongs here as okay. And then, like I said already, we have Battlefield 4. And honestly, this game, for me, this game belongs up here, and it completes what it is for me, the holy trinity of Battlefield games. Because I think these 3 games really mirror what the Battlefield franchise is about and what it should be. You have the atmosphere of Battlefield 1, you have this dirty and gritty and this really war and battlefield feeling. And then for Battlefield 4, you have the gunplay and everything that they really nailed in this game. And you have all of the core mechanics and all the squad and team play mechanics that were really good in this title. And then in between you have Battlefield Bad Company 2 that is a combination of both, and I really hope that one day, hopefully with the next title, they will go back to this. They will go back to the roots of the franchise. They will go back to what the franchise defines and what they are good at, and build a Battlefield game based on this foundation. That's what I would love to see for the next title. And then we have 2 games left. The first one that maybe a lot of people don't know, and it was very different from the rest of all of these titles, and that's Battlefield Heroes. So I don't really know where to put this. I've played it for like, I don't know, maybe 5 hours, and I enjoyed it somewhat, but not to the extent I enjoyed these games. Up here, it was kind of weird to see that this is a Battlefield game. I think it was also ahead of its time back then, because when you look at Fortnite now and all the other games in this style, Battlefield Heroes was probably their spiritual predecessor, something like this. And as a last game, we have Battlefield 2142, which was also very different from the others. It was very futuristic. I think it's somewhat of a predecessor to Titanfall for me because of the Titan mode, probably. So I would rate it as okay. It doesn't belong here. It's not like, don't be sad, this is just how it works out sometimes. It belongs right here. It is okay. It is different. It's something, I don't know if I really would like to see this returning to the franchise. I would wish they would focus a bit more on this up there. Alright, and that was it for today. That was my personal tier list. Tell me if you agree with this or not, and maybe how your list looks like, and also tell me if you enjoyed this non-scripted video more than the usual scripted stuff, and if you would like to see more of this coming to the channel, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Until then, thanks for watching, and thanks to my members for the additional support. I'm the Catwoman, and you are awesome.